The observation deck of the Proving Ground Station stretched across 300 meters of reinforced glass. Beyond it, the capital world of the Galactic Council rotated slowly, its 3 moons casting pale light across violet oceans. Inside the deck, representatives from 47 different species waited in nervous clusters, each one chosen as the absolute best their world could offer. Doyen stood apart from the others, his hands clasped behind his back as he studied the gathering. He was 34 years old, lean and weathered from years spent in Earth's harshest environments. His black hair was cut short and practical. His dark eyes moved constantly, assessing everything and everyone around him. He wore simple clothing, nothing like the elaborate environmental suits and ceremonial armor displayed by the other candidates. A translator device chirped in his ear as nearby aliens discussed the upcoming test. Most of their conversation centered on equipment choices and survival strategies. Doyen listened but said nothing. He had learned long ago that listening taught more than speaking. The crystalline being at the front of the chamber finally activated the main display. Velthor was the test administrator, a creature of living diamond who refracted light into rainbow patterns across the walls. When he spoke, his voice resonated through every translator simultaneously. Welcome, candidates. You stand here because your species seeks membership in the Galactic Council. For 12,000 cycles, we have maintained peace through one simple principle. Every species must prove they deserve their place among the stars. The display behind Velthor shifted to show a planet. It looked angry. Red storms swirled across brown continents. The oceans were the color of rust. Even from space, it looked like something that wanted everything dead. This is Korov 9, a Class 12 death world. You will spend 7 planetary rotations on its surface. That equals 9 of your standard days. If you survive, your species will be granted provisional membership in the Council. A ripple of concern moved through the assembled candidates. Doyen noticed that several species representatives had begun touching their equipment nervously. Others exchanged worried glances with their advisors. Velthor continued. You may each select 3 items from the approved equipment list. This list contains 200 tools specifically designed for extreme survival scenarios. Energy shields, plasma cutters, water synthesizers, emergency beacons, atmospheric processors, and much more. Choose wisely. Your selections may determine whether your species joins us or remains isolated. Holographic displays appeared before each candidate, showing the extensive equipment catalog. Doyen watched as the other representatives began scrolling through options. A 4-armed insectoid named Krev immediately selected an energy shield generator. A floating gas being chose a containment suit with atmospheric controls. A reptilian creature picked a plasma cutter capable of slicing through solid rock. Velthor approached Doyen's station. The crystalline administrator tilted his head, waiting for the human to begin his selection. The holographic display flickered, ready to record choices. Doyen looked at Velthor directly. I have a question. Ask, knife, fire, or just my bare hands allowed? The translation took a moment to process through all the various devices in the room. Then silence fell across the observation deck. Every being present turned to stare at the human representative. Velthor's crystalline structure pulsed with confused colors. I do not understand your question. Please clarify. For the test, Doyen said calmly. Am I allowed to bring a knife? Or materials to make fire? Or do I go with nothing at all, just my bare hands? A series of sounds erupted from the other candidates. Some species laughed, their versions of amusement ranging from clicking mandibles to vibrating air sacs. Others made sounds of confusion. A few simply stared in what might have been pity. Velthor processed the question for several long seconds. Candidate Doyen of Earth, perhaps your translator is malfunctioning. You may select any 3 items from a list of 200 advanced survival technologies. You are not limited to primitive tools. I understand, Doyen replied, but I am asking what the actual rules allow. Can I bring a simple knife? Can I bring materials to create fire? Or must I go with nothing? The administrator's light pattern shifted to something that might have been concern. You may bring any items from the approved list. This includes basic tools if you wish, but I must inform you that no candidate in recorded history has chosen items of such primitive nature. The Death World environment is extremely hostile. Without proper technology, survival is considered impossible. Not impossible, Doyen said quietly, just difficult. Krev, the 4-armed insectoid, spoke up from across the room. Human, your species is new to galactic civilization. Perhaps you do not understand what a Class 12 death world means. These are planets where the environment itself actively kills visitors. The air may be toxic. The water may be acidic. The local fauna evolved specifically to hunt and consume anything that moves. You need technology to survive. Doyen turned to face the insectoid. What class rating is Earth? Velthor accessed the database. His lights flickered as he read the information. Then he went very still. Earth is classified as a Class 12 death world. The observation deck went silent again, but this time the quality of silence was different. Several species representatives accessed their own databases, verifying the information. Whispered conversations began spreading through the chamber. That cannot be correct, said a tall being covered in silver fur. Class 12 worlds are uninhabitable without significant technological adaptation. No species evolves naturally on such planets. The classification is correct, Velthor confirmed. Earth is rated Class 12 due to extreme environmental variables, aggressive microbial life, dangerous megafauna, tectonic instability, and volatile atmospheric conditions. Humans evolved as the dominant species despite these factors. Doyen watched as the information changed the mood in the room. The laughter stopped. The pity transformed into something else, something that looked almost like concern. He turned back to Velthor. So knife, fire, or bare hands? The crystalline administrator seemed to make a decision. You may choose one. A simple steel knife. The ability to create fire through primitive means, or nothing at all. If you wish to make this statement, I will allow it. I choose the knife, Doyen said. Fire can be made from the environment. Bare hands are always with me anyway. Velthor recorded the selection. It is done. Though I feel obligated to mention that you are still entitled to 2 more items from the full list. The knife is enough. Around the room, other candidates had completed their selections. They carried packs filled with advanced technology. Energy sources that would last for weeks. Weapons that could vaporize threats from 100 meters away. Shelters that could be deployed in seconds and withstand almost any. Assaulted Doyen carried nothing, except the clothes he wore and a single steel knife in a leather sheath. The crystalline administrator addressed the entire assembly. All candidates have made their selections. You will be transported to your drop pods. Each of you will be deposited in different zones across Korov 9. You will have no contact with each other. You will have no support from your home worlds. Survive 7 rotations and your species earns their place in the council. Fail, and your species remains isolated for another century before they may attempt the test again. Velthor's lights pulsed one final time. Prepare yourselves. Korov 9 welcomes nobody. It has killed representatives from 38 species over the past 1,000 cycles. Do not become 39. The candidates filed toward the transport tubes. Doyen walked among them, shorter than most, less armored than all. Krev moved alongside him briefly. Human, I do not know if your species values courage or foolishness more highly, but I wish you fortune. Thank you, Doyen replied. See you in 9 days. The insectoid's mandibles clicked in what might have been respect or might have been a farewell to the dead. Doyen entered his drop pod. The door sealed behind him with a hiss of pressurization. Through the small window, he could see Korov 9 growing larger as the station's orbit brought them closer. The angry red planet waited below, its storms swirling with violence. He checked his knife one last time, feeling the balance and the edge. It was good steel, well made. It would serve. The pod shuddered as it detached from the station. Then gravity took hold, and Doyen began his fall toward the death world below. Around him, 46 other pods fell in different trajectories, each carrying a species champion toward the ultimate test. Doyen closed his eyes and controlled his breathing. He had been in worse situations before. Not many, perhaps, but some. The pod began to heat up as it hit the atmosphere. Through the window, he could see fire surrounding the pod's exterior. The death world reached up to pull him down into its embrace. He smiled slightly. This was going to be interesting. The drop pod hit the canopy with tremendous force. Branches thick as tree trunks shattered against the reinforced hull. Doyen braced himself as the pod crashed through 3 layers of vegetation before finally slamming into the ground. The impact harness dug into his shoulders, but he had experienced worse landings during emergency response training. Silence followed the crash. Then the sounds of the jungle began filtering through the pod's damaged walls. Clicks, whistles, roars, and sounds that had no earth equivalent. The air that seeped through the cracked seals smelled of sulfur and rotting vegetation. It burned slightly in his nostrils. Doyen released the harness and checked himself for injuries. A few bruises, nothing serious. He grabbed his knife and triggered the emergency release. The pod door blew outward with explosive bolts, revealing the alien jungle beyond. Heat hit him first. The temperature was easily 40 degrees Celsius, maybe higher. Humidity pressed against his skin like a wet blanket. The vegetation around him was purple and black, with occasional patches of sickly yellow. Everything looked either poisonous or carnivorous, and probably both. He stepped out of the pod carefully, watching where he placed his feet. The ground was soft, covered in moss-like growth that released spores when disturbed. He made a mental note to avoid breathing those if possible. Something moved in the canopy above. Doyen went still, his eyes tracking the movement without moving his head. A creature about the size of a large dog watched him from the branches. It had 6 legs, no visible eyes, and a mouth that split its head into 3 sections. The mouth was opening and closing slowly, tasting the air. Doyen remained motionless for 3 full minutes. The creature eventually decided he was not interesting and moved away through the trees. The moment it disappeared, Doyen began moving. First priority was assessment. He needed to understand the environment before anything else. He spent the next hour in a careful circle around his landing site, noting everything. The pod had landed in a small clearing surrounded by dense jungle. A stream ran about 50 meters to the east, the water looking brown and questionable. High ground was visible to the north, maybe a kilometer away. The jungle seemed thicker to the south and west. He tested the stream water carefully. It smelled acidic. A small stick he dipped in the water came out slightly corroded. Definitely not safe to drink without treatment, but where there was water, there would be a way to purify it. As the first day progressed, Doyen noticed several things. The local predators were curious but cautious. They watched him but did not attack immediately. This suggested they were intelligent hunters who studied prey before striking. That was both good and bad. Good because it gave him time to prepare, bad because it meant they were smart. He found a suitable location for shelter near the high ground where several large rocks created a natural windbreak. Using his knife and materials from the jungle, he began construction. He cut branches carefully, testing each type of wood for strength and flexibility. Some plants released irritating sap when cut. He marked those mentally as potential weapons or tools. By nightfall of the first day, he had a basic shelter. It was not pretty, but it would keep rain off and provide some protection from ground-based predators. He had also created several basic tools. A digging stick for roots, a long pole for testing ground before stepping, several sharp stakes for defense. He did not make fire that first night. Fire would attract attention, and he did not yet understand what kind of attention that would be. Instead, he sat in his shelter and listened to the jungle around him. The night sounds were different from the day sounds. More hunting calls. More movement through the underbrush. Something large passed near his shelter around midnight. He heard its breathing, deep and wet. It sniffed at the entrance to his shelter, and he could see its shadow against the faint light from the planet's 2 moons. 6 legs, low to the ground, easily the size of an earth cow. It smelled like death. Doyen held his knife and remained absolutely still. The creature sniffed for several long minutes, then moved on. He waited an additional hour before allowing himself to relax. High above in orbit, the Proving Ground Station monitored all candidates through satellite surveillance. In the observation room, Velthor watched multiple screens showing different landing zones. Several candidates had already activated their energy shields and established technological camps. They were safe inside bubbles of force and filtered air. One screen showed Doyen in his primitive shelter, sitting awake through the night with only a knife. Krev stood beside Velthor, also watching. The human will not survive the first week. He has no protection, no advanced tools. When the night predators discover he is vulnerable, they will kill him. Perhaps, Velthor said, but observe his behavior. He does not panic. He moves with purpose. And look at his vital signs. The display showed Doyen's heart rate, stress hormones, and other biological markers. They indicated stress but not fear. His body was responding to the challenge, but his mind remained calm. Interesting, Krev admitted. By the second day, Doyen had established a routine. He woke before dawn and checked his surroundings. He improved his shelter, adding a second layer of branches for better insulation. He explored further from his base camp, always marking his path carefully. He found several types of local fruit that appeared edible. He tested them using the universal edibility test he had learned years ago. Touch to skin, wait. Touch to lips, wait. Small taste, wait. Most of the fruits failed at various stages, causing numbness or irritation. One type passed all tests. A purple fruit that grew in clusters near the stream. It tasted terrible, like bitter soap, but it did not poison him. He collected several and stored them in his shelter. The water remained a problem. He needed to purify it somehow. He spent several hours collecting different types of stone from the stream bed, looking for something that could be used for filtration. He found a porous rock that seemed promising. He also collected charcoal from a tree that had been struck by lightning. Charcoal was an excellent filter. By the third day, he had created a basic water filtration system. It was slow and produced only small amounts of drinkable water, but it worked. He could survive on it. That night, he made his first fire. He used a bow drill technique, creating friction with wood and patience. It took 40 minutes of steady work, but eventually smoke appeared, then embers, then flame.
He kept the fire small and fed it carefully. The fire changed everything.
It provided warmth, light, and psychological comfort. It also attracted visitors. The six-legged predator that had sniffed his shelter on the first night returned. This time, Doyen saw it clearly in the firelight. It was even larger than he thought, maybe 3 meters long with a muscular body covered in dark scales. Its mouth was filled with teeth designed for tearing meat. Most disturbing were the eyes. They watched him with clear intelligence. Doyen named it the Stalker. He had learned long ago that naming threats made them easier to understand and predict. The Stalker circled his camp at a distance of about 30 meters. It never took its eyes off him. Doyen fed the fire and pretended to ignore it, but he tracked every movement through his peripheral vision. The creature was testing him, learning his patterns. This continued for the next 2 days. The Stalker would appear each night, circle the camp, and watch. Doyen used this time to prepare. He created better weapons, several spears with fire-hardened points, a simple bow with arrows, traps placed strategically around his camp's perimeter. In orbit, the observation room had become crowded. Word had spread about the human candidate who survived with primitive tools. Council members from various species came to watch. Some were impressed. Others were disturbed. "He is hunting the hunter," observed a feline-like species representative. "See how he prepares? He knows the predator will eventually attack. He is choosing the battlefield." Belthor watched silently. 12 candidates had already activated emergency extraction and returned to orbit. The human remained on the surface, not just surviving, but adapting. On the 5th day, the Stalker made its move. It came during the late afternoon when Doyen was collecting water from the stream. The creature approached from downwind, moving with practiced silence through the jungle. But Doyen had been expecting this. He had noticed that the Stalker preferred attacking during the transition between day and night, when the light was uncertain. He had also noticed the creature's tendency to approach from the same direction each time. When the Stalker charged, Doyen was ready. He rolled to the side, avoiding the initial rush. The creature crashed past him and directly into one of his carefully placed traps. Sharpened stakes driven into the ground caught its left side, causing the creature to roar in pain and fury. Doyen did not run. Running triggered chase instincts in predators. Instead, he turned to face the Stalker, his best spear in hand. He shouted, making himself seem larger and more dangerous than his size suggested. The wounded predator hesitated. This was not how prey normally behaved. Prey ran or cowered or fought desperately. This small creature stood its ground and challenged. The Stalker charged again, but the wound had slowed it. Doyen used the terrain to his advantage, staying near large rocks that the creature could. Doyen followed the tracks at first light. They were definitely human. Smaller than his own, probably belonging to someone lighter. The stride pattern suggested a woman, moving carefully through the jungle with deliberate steps. Whoever it was knew how to move quietly through hostile territory. The trail led downstream, following the water for about 2 kilometers before turning toward higher ground. Doyen noticed signs that this person had been observing the local plant life. Several specimens had been carefully harvested, with clean cuts that indicated a sharp tool and knowledge of botany. He found her camp around midday. It was well hidden in a cluster of large rocks positioned to provide multiple escape routes. A small fire burned in a pit designed to minimize smoke. Various plants hung drying from a simple frame. The construction showed experience and intelligence. "You can come out now," Doyun called in Korean. "I am not a threat." A moment of silence, then a woman emerged from behind the rocks. She held a makeshift spear but lowered it when she saw him. She was in her early 30s with short black hair tied back practically. Her clothes were torn and stained, but she looked healthy. Most notably, she had several pouches hanging from her belt, each containing different plant materials. "Doyun?" she asked, surprise clear in her voice. "You know me? I saw your interview before we left Earth. You are the wilderness survival instructor. I am Hana, combat medic and botanist." She studied him with professional eyes, noting his bandaged arm. "You are injured." "I had a disagreement with a local predator. I won, but it was close." Hana gestured toward her fire. "Sit, let me look at that wound properly. It could become infected in this environment." As she worked on his arm, cleaning and rebandaging it with materials she had created from local plants, they talked. Hana explained that Earth had misunderstood the Council's instructions. The message had been translated to request humanity's best survival team, not best individual. 5 people had been sent to Korov 9, each dropped in different zones. 5. Doyun processed this information. "That is a serious protocol violation. I know, but we are here now. We might as well make the best of it." She applied a paste made from crushed leaves to his wound. "This should prevent infection. I have been testing the local plants. Many are toxic, but several have medicinal properties." "How long did it take you to identify safe plants?" 3 days of careful testing. I used samples on the wound of a local creature first, watching for reactions before trying them on myself. She smiled slightly. "Being a combat medic teaches you to be creative with available resources." In orbit, Velthor received the report about multiple human candidates with growing concern. He called an emergency council session. Within the hour, representatives from 30 species gathered in the council chamber. "This is an unprecedented situation," Velthor announced. "Earth appears to have sent 5 candidates instead of 1. This violates the test protocols." A tall species representative with blue skin spoke first. "Disqualify them immediately. Rules exist for a reason." "I disagree," said another being covered in silver fur. "If 5 individuals from a species can survive where single representatives from other species failed, that says something significant about that species. It says they cheated," the blue-skinned representative insisted. Velthor projected the current statistics on the main display. Of the original 47 candidates, 19 have already activated emergency extraction. Of those remaining, only the humans appear to be thriving. The others are merely surviving with their advanced technology. Krev, who had been watching the human feeds obsessively, spoke up. "I have been monitoring both Doyun and Hana. Their behavior is concerning. They do not simply survive. They adapt. They learn. They improve their situations continually." "What do you mean concerning?" asked the silver-furred being. Krev displayed footage from Doyun's fight with the stalker. The council watched in silence as the human killed an apex predator using primitive weapons and tactics. Then he showed footage of Hana creating medicine from unknown plants through careful experimentation. "This is concerning because humans are not supposed to be able to do this," Krev explained. "Korov 9 is rated Class 12. It should be impossible to survive without advanced technology. Yet these humans treat it like a camping trip." Velthor accessed Earth's data file and projected it for all council members to see. The information caused a wave of disturbed murmuring through the chamber. "Earth is also rated Class 12, Velthor stated. "The same rating as our test world. Humans evolved as apex predators on a death world. They are persistence hunters who tracked prey for days until it collapsed from exhaustion. Their bodies process toxins that would kill most species. They have extreme temperature tolerance. They heal remarkably fast. And most relevant to our current situation, they are pack hunters who become significantly more dangerous when working together." The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. "How many other Class 12 species exist in the galaxy?" asked the silver-furred representative. "None," Velthor replied. "Earth is the first Class 12 world known to have produced a spacefaring civilization. Most such worlds kill their inhabitants before they can develop advanced society." "Then perhaps we should reconsider," suggested a floating jellyfish-like being. "If we disqualify them for sending 5 candidates, We lose the opportunity to observe what 5 Death World predators can accomplish when working together. That is exactly what concerns me, said the blue-skinned representative. What if we do not want to know what 5 Death World predators can accomplish? After heated debate, Velthor proposed a compromise. The 5 humans may continue the test. However, if they wish humanity to gain council membership, they must achieve something unprecedented. They must not merely survive the 7 rotations. They must demonstrate capabilities beyond what any previous candidate has shown. The council agreed, though many members looked uneasy about the decision. Back on Korov 9, Doyen and Hana had joined forces. They spent a day combining their camps, creating a more permanent base with better defenses and resources. Hana's botanical knowledge complemented Doyen's survival skills perfectly. There are 3 others somewhere on this planet, Hana said as they worked. Jiwan is a marine biologist. Taemin is a mountain rescue specialist with engineering background. Minji is an Arctic survival specialist and psychologist. We should find them, Doyun replied. Together we would be much stronger. Agreed. But Korov 9 is large. It could take days to locate them, as if in response a distant signal reached them. Not a technological signal, but something simpler. Smoke rising from a location about 5 kilometers to the east, near what looked like a large lake. That is too much smoke to be accidental, Doyen observed. Someone is signaling. They reached the lake by evening. The body of water was massive, stretching beyond the horizon. The smoke came from a beach area where a woman had built a large signal fire. She was in her late 20s, strong and athletic, with her hair tied back in a practical braid. Jiwon, Hana called out. The woman turned, relief clear on her face. Hana, and you must be Doyen, thank goodness. I was beginning to think I was the only human on this entire planet. Jiwon's camp was impressive. She had established it right on the beach, with access to both jungle resources and the lake. Most remarkably, she had created fishing traps in the shallow water, and was actually farming local fish-like creatures. The lake ecosystem is surprisingly robust, she explained. The water is cleaner than the streams, and the aquatic life is abundant. I have been catching and studying the local species. Several are edible. That night, the 3 humans shared a meal of grilled fish and the bitter purple fruit. They discussed their situations and what they had learned about Korov 9. The planet is dangerous but predictable, Doyen said. The predators are intelligent but cautious. The plants follow logical patterns of toxicity. It is survivable. More than survivable, Jiwan added. With proper knowledge, we could actually thrive here. In orbit, the Council's xenobiologist was conducting urgent research into human evolution. What he discovered disturbed him greatly. He requested an immediate meeting with Velthor. They are not being tested, the xenobiologist said, his tentacles quivering with agitation. Look at this data. Humans spent millions of years on Earth being hunted by predators much larger and stronger than themselves. They survived through intelligence, endurance, and pack tactics. Korov 9's challenges are nothing new to them. This is not a test. This is familiar territory. Are you saying the test is too easy for them? No. I am saying the test was designed for species that evolved on safe worlds. Species that achieved intelligence in peaceful environments and then built technology to protect themselves. Humans are different. They achieved intelligence specifically to survive their hostile environment. They are naturally equipped for this challenge. Velthor watched the screen showing the 3 humans working together at the lake camp. What happens when all 5 find each other? That is what concerns me, the xenobiologist replied. Humans are significantly more effective as a group. Their pack-hunting instincts have been honed by millions of years of evolution. 5 humans working together could potentially accomplish things we have not even considered. The 5 humans spent the 6th day transforming Taemin's cave system from a simple shelter into something far more permanent. They worked with practiced efficiency, each person contributing their expertise to create a functioning base. Taemin focused on engineering solutions. He created a sophisticated water filtration system, using the cave's natural rock formations, charcoal from burned wood, and sand from the lake. Water now flowed through multiple layers of filtration, producing clean drinking water at a steady rate. Jiwan established what she called a fish farm in a protected inlet of the lake. She had studied the local aquatic life and identified species that could be caught, kept alive in enclosed areas, and harvested as needed. She created holding pools using rocks and woven plant materials. Hana expanded her medicinal garden. She had identified 14 different plants with useful properties. Some reduced infection, others helped with pain. A few could be used to create antiseptic solutions. She organized them carefully, teaching the others which plants served which purposes. Minji focused on the psychological aspects of their camp. She arranged sleeping areas to provide privacy, while maintaining social connection. She created a common area for group discussion. She even established a schedule that balanced work with rest, ensuring no one became too exhausted or isolated. Doyen coordinated everything. He established defensive perimeters around the camp, created multiple escape routes, and organized hunting parties for larger game. Under his guidance, the camp became not just livable but genuinely comfortable. In orbit, the council observation room had become a permanent gathering place. Dozens of species representatives came and went, watching the humans with fascination and growing concern. Krev had barely left the observation room in days. He studied every action the humans took, making detailed notes. What he saw troubled him deeply. "They are not surviving," he reported to Velthor. "They are colonizing." "Explain," the crystalline administrator requested. "Look at their construction. They are not building temporary shelters. They are building infrastructure meant to last. They are not gathering food day by day. They are establishing food sources that will continue producing. They are not treating injuries as emergencies. They are creating a medical facility. This is not survival behavior. This is settlement behavior." Velthor watched the screens showing the human camp. Krev was correct. The humans had transformed a hostile death world into something approaching a home in less than a week. "There is something else," Krev continued. "I have been monitoring their communication. They barely speak aloud, yet they coordinate perfectly. They use gestures, eye contact, and body language to convey complex information. This suggests evolutionary adaptation for silent hunting. That would make sense for persistence hunters," observed the council's xenobiologist, who had joined the observation. "They needed to coordinate during long hunts without alerting prey. It makes them extremely effective as a team," Krev said. "And extremely dangerous. Watch this footage from this morning." The screen showed Doyen and Taemin hunting a large herbivore. The creature was built like a buffalo, but with armor plating and aggressive defense mechanisms. It should have been impossible for two humans with primitive weapons to kill it, but Doyen and Taemin did not attack directly. Instead, they followed it. For hours, the creature ran, trying to escape, but the humans simply maintained a steady jogging pace behind it. When the creature stopped to rest, the humans stopped too, just visible at the edge of the tree line. When the creature ran again, they followed. After 6 hours, the creature was exhausted. Its movements were sluggish, its breathing labored. That was when the human struck, quickly and efficiently ending its life. "Persistence hunting," the xenobiologist said quietly. "Humans evolved to literally run prey to death. No other predator in the galaxy hunts this way. It requires patience, endurance, and the ability to track over long distances. It is terrifying in its efficiency." The council members watching the footage looked disturbed. This was not the behavior they expected from candidates trying to prove themselves worthy of civilization. This was the behavior of apex predators demonstrating their natural abilities. On Korov 9, the humans were unaware of the concern they were causing. They were focused on completing their base camp and exploring their surroundings more thoroughly. On the 7th day, Minji made an important discovery. While exploring deeper into the cave system, she found markings on the walls. They were old, worn by time, but definitely artificial. "Taemin, Doyen, come look at this," she called. The three of them studied the markings by torchlight. They were symbols of some kind, arranged in patterns that suggested language or record-keeping. "This planet was inhabited," Doyen said. "The council never mentioned that." "Maybe they did not know," Taemin suggested. He examined the walls more closely. "These markings are ancient. Thousands of years old, perhaps more." They followed the marked passages deeper into the cave system. The markings became more elaborate the further they went, eventually leading to a large chamber. The walls of this chamber were covered in detailed carvings showing what appeared to be a civilization living on the surface. But the final carvings showed catastrophe. The images depicted massive upheaval, fire from the sky, and the inhabitants fleeing underground. "They were wiped out," Minji said. "Something destroyed their surface civilization." Doyen examined the carvings more carefully. His expression grew serious. "These markings repeat in a pattern. It is a cycle. Whatever destroyed them happens regularly. How regularly? Taman asked. Based on the wear patterns and geological evidence, I would estimate every few hundred years. They stood in silence, processing this information. Then Minji noticed something that made her blood run cold. She pointed to a carving showing celestial bodies in specific alignments. I have been tracking the moons and the local star. If these carvings are accurate astronomical records, then this alignment is happening right now. The three of them looked at each other, understanding dawning. We need to tell the others immediately, Doyun said. They ran back through the caves to where Hana and Jiwon were working. Quickly they explained what they had found. The 5 humans gathered in the common area to discuss the implications. If Korov 9 has a cyclical cleansing event and it is happening now, we are in serious danger, Hana said. The council either did not know or did not tell us. What kind of cleansing event would wipe out a civilization? Jiwon asked. As if in answer, the ground began to shake. It started as a gentle tremor but quickly grew stronger. Dust fell from the cave ceiling. Outside they could hear strange sounds echoing across the jungle. Taman checked his makeshift instruments. Seismic activity. Strong and getting stronger. The shaking lasted for 30 seconds, then subsided. But all 5 humans knew this was just the beginning. In orbit, alarms began sounding across the proving ground station. Velthor rushed to the monitoring station, where technicians were analyzing data from the planet's surface. What is happening? He demanded. Massive seismic activity across all continents, a technician reported. Volcanic activity increasing. Atmospheric pressure changing. Sir, the planetary database shows this pattern. Korov 9 experiences periodic cleansing events. The next one was not supposed to occur for another 50 years. Why is it happening now? Unknown. But all remaining candidates are in danger. Velthor made an immediate decision. Activate emergency extraction for all candidates now. Within minutes, extraction offers appeared to all remaining candidates on the surface. Most of the non-human representatives accepted immediately, their pods launching into orbit within seconds. The extraction offer appeared to the 5 humans as well. Displaying on a small device each had been given at the start. They gathered around to read it. Immediate extraction available due to planetary emergency. Except now for guaranteed safety, Hana read aloud. The 5 humans looked at each other. No one moved to accept. We have shelter, Doyen said. The caves protected the original inhabitants for centuries. We have supplies, Jiwon added. Food, water, medicine. We have knowledge, Taman said. The carvings show how they survived underground. We have each other, Minji stated. That is more important than any technology. So we refuse? Hana asked, though her tone suggested she already knew the answer. We refuse, they agreed together. In orbit, Velthor watched in disbelief as all 5 humans rejected the extraction offer. Open communication with them, he ordered. A moment later, Doyen's voice came through the speakers. We read you, Velthor. Candidate Doyen, you must accept extraction. The planet is entering a cleansing cycle. It is extremely dangerous. While we are aware, we found records from the previous inhabitants. But we believe we can survive it. This is not bravado or foolishness speaking, Velthor said urgently. This event has killed entire ecosystems. The surface will become uninhabitable. Then it is good we are not planning to stay on the surface, Doyen replied calmly. We have deep caves with multiple chambers, fresh water sources, preserved food supplies, and knowledge of what to expect. We are as prepared as we can be. Krev, who was listening, spoke into his own communicator. Doyen, this is Krev. I have been monitoring your progress with great interest. But this is... The cleansing event began with violence that exceeded even the ancient carvings. The ground shook continuously, making it difficult to stand. Volcanic eruptions created a hellscape on the surface, filling the atmosphere with ash and toxic gases. Temperatures rose dramatically as the planet's core released energy that had been building for centuries. Inside the deep caves, the 5 humans could hear the destruction above. Rocks fell from the ceiling occasionally, forcing them to move between chambers to find the most stable locations. The air grew hot and difficult to breathe, even deep underground. Taman worked constantly to maintain their ventilation system. He had created a series of channels using the natural cave structure to draw in air from deeper in the system, where it was cooler and cleaner. It was not perfect, but it kept them alive. Air quality is dropping, he reported after checking his makeshift instruments. The surface fires are consuming oxygen and producing toxic gases that are seeping into the upper cave systems. How long before it reaches this deep? Doyen asked. Maybe 12 hours. We need to go deeper. They moved further into the cave system, following the ancient markings that showed where the original inhabitants had survived. The passages were narrow and difficult to navigate while carrying supplies, but they managed. The deeper they went, the more stable the environment became. In orbit, the proving ground station had been evacuated to a higher altitude to avoid the ash and debris being ejected into the upper atmosphere. The Council watched through long-range sensors, tracking the 5 human life signs buried deep beneath the planet's surface. They are still alive, Krev reported, though he sounded almost disappointed that his predictions had been wrong, moving deeper into the cave systems. Heart rates elevated but stable. Stress hormones present but not at panic levels. Velthor studied the data with professional interest. They are experiencing extreme environmental stress, yet they continue to function. How? The xenobiologist pulled up comparative data. I have been analyzing human stress response compared to other species. Humans have an unusual relationship with stress. Their bodies respond to danger with increased capability, rather than decreased function. Adrenaline sharpens their focus, speeds their reactions, and temporarily increases their strength. It is an evolutionary adaptation for surviving immediate threats. But this is not an immediate threat, Velthor pointed out. This is prolonged danger over many days. Eventually their bodies will fail. Perhaps. But humans also have exceptional endurance for sustained stress. During their evolution, they regularly faced week-long hunts, seasonal disasters, and long-term survival challenges. They are adapted for exactly this type of situation. On the surface, the cleansing event reached its peak. The entire planet seemed to be on fire. Lava flows covered vast areas. Electrical storms created by the volcanic ash generated lightning that struck constantly. The atmosphere became thick with particles that blocked out the star's light, plunging everything into darkness. Deep underground, the 5 humans established a new camp in what appeared to be the deepest inhabitable chamber. The ancient carvings here showed families living through the cleansing, suggesting this had been their primary refuge. We have water from an underground stream, Jiwan reported. It is warm but clean. The source is deep enough that surface contamination has not reached it. Food supplies are adequate for 3 more days, Hana added. After that, we will need to find alternatives. The carvings show the ancient inhabitants ate something from deeper in the caves, Minji said, pointing to images on the wall. Some type of fungus or underground plant life. We will explore when conditions stabilize, Doyen decided. For now, we conserve energy and stay together. The waiting was the hardest part. The ground continued to shake periodically. Strange sounds echoed through the caves from the destruction above. The air remained hot and thick despite Taemin's ventilation efforts. Sleep was difficult, coming in short periods when exhaustion overcame discomfort. But the humans adapted. They always adapted. Hana discovered that certain minerals in the cave walls could be mixed with water to create a cooling paste. Applied to skin, it helped manage the heat. Minji led meditation sessions to help everyone stay calm and focused. Jiwan found edible fungus growing in the deepest chambers, exactly where the ancient carvings had indicated. Taemin continuously improved their ventilation and water systems. Doyen maintained watch schedules and kept everyone organized. On the 3rd day of the cleansing event, the seismic activity began to decrease. The shaking became less frequent and less violent. The sounds from above changed from constant roaring to occasional rumbling. It is ending, Taemin said after monitoring the patterns. The planet is stabilizing. How long before the surface is safe? Asked Jiwan. Based on the geological evidence and the ancient records, probably another 2 days for the initial cooling. But full recovery could take weeks or months, they waited. Patience was another human advantage. While other species might have panicked at the prolonged confinement and danger, the humans simply endured. They told stories, shared memories of Earth, and maintained their spirits through connection with each other. In orbit, the Council had been conducting an emergency session. The debate had grown heated. The humans have demonstrated capabilities that exceed our expectations, the silver-furred representative argued. They have survived conditions that killed entire civilizations. They deserve immediate approval for Council membership. They have demonstrated that they are dangerous, countered the blue-skinned representative. Death-world predators with intelligence and pack-hunting instincts. Do we want such creatures in our council? They are not creatures, said a new voice. It was the representative from a crystalline species known for their wisdom. They are people. Unusual people, certainly. Frighteningly capable people, yes. But people nonetheless. And people can choose to be allies rather than threats. Velthor addressed the assembly. The question before us is not whether humans are dangerous. Clearly they are. The question is whether their capabilities make them valuable members of our community, or threats to it. They refused extraction during a planetary emergency, Krev pointed out. That shows either incredible bravery or incredible foolishness. I am not certain which concerns me more. It shows determination, the wise crystalline being replied. They committed to completing the test, and they followed through regardless of cost. That is a valuable trait in an ally. The debate continued for hours, but eventually a consensus emerged. If the humans survived the cleansing event, they would be granted provisional membership. But there would be conditions. On Korav 9, the cleansing event finally ended. The seismic activity stopped. The volcanic eruptions ceased. The atmosphere began to clear as the ash settled. It had lasted 5 days total, 3 days longer than the original test period. The 5 humans waited 1 additional day to ensure stability, then began their journey back to the surface. They moved slowly, checking air quality as they ascended. The passages had changed. Some were blocked by rockfalls. Others had been altered by the heat and pressure. But the ancient tunnels had survived, and so had they. When they finally emerged into daylight, they found a transformed world. The jungle was gone, burned away by fire and buried under ash. The lake had boiled away, leaving a dry basin. The landscape looked like the surface of a dead planet, but already life was returning. Green shoots pushed through the ash. Insects emerged from underground refuges. Birds circled overhead, returning from wherever they had sheltered. Korav 9 was resilient, adapted to its own cycles of destruction and rebirth. It is beautiful, Minji said quietly, in a harsh way. It is survival, Doyen replied, which is always beautiful when you are the one who survived. They activated their communication devices, which had been turned off to conserve power during the underground stay. Immediately, Velthor's voice came through. Human candidates, respond please. We are here, Doyen answered. All 5 of us. We survived. A long pause, then Velthor spoke again. His voice carried an emotion that the translator struggled to convey. Yes, you did. Extraction pods are being prepared. You will be brought to the station immediately. Will we need to complete the remaining test time? Honor asked. We still have some days left in the original schedule. The test is complete. More than complete. Please prepare for extraction. The pods descended through the clearing atmosphere and landed near the cave entrance. The 5 humans boarded, carrying samples of the planet's life, geological data, and detailed documentation of everything they had experienced. As the pods lifted away from Korav 9's surface, they watched the scarred planet growing smaller below them. They had arrived as candidates trying to prove humanity deserved a place among the stars. They were leaving as survivors who had faced one of the galaxy's ultimate challenges and won. The Proving Ground station welcomed them with something between celebration and nervous tension. When the 5 humans walked into the observation deck, they found the entire council assembled. Representatives from hundreds of species filled the massive chamber.